How do you work? Do you lie at night and write your notations,
No.
or do you see pictures?
No. As I said, when under Frank's staff, and to a certain extent with David, I kind of went to choreographer school because I watched Frank write. That's how you say it. You don't say choreograph, you write ballet. And I watched him work on a lot of ballets. So I kind of knew the way he worked and how he developed. So then I could kind of copy how he did it. But you either get an idea first for a ballet, or otherwise the music comes along and says, oh, this is lovely music in your head. It's dying to be written as a ballet. Or you have David Poole as your director saying, I need another 3-act ballet, you will be doing this. So, which happened most of the time. He would say, I need another 3-act ballet, it's got to be funny. Or I needed another 3-act ballet, it's got to be dramatic. So, And
then who chooses the music? Do you go and find music and think?
Well, sometimes we would discuss it, to say, this kind of ballet, we can use that kind of music, because, I was very disrespectful of opera and used a lot of opera music as ballets, like Carmen, La Traviata. I've done Tales of Hoffmann, Orpheus in the Underworld. Can't remember the others offhand, but quite a lot of operas I've turned into ballets, and they work, because the music's there and the story's there. So.
Tell me about Peter Klatzo, because that's very different music.
Oh, yes, isn't it just? Peter Klatzo originally worked with Frank. Frank had gotten to his knickers into a knot because he wanted to do a ballet on Rain Queen, written to music by Graham Newcat, who was especially writing it. Graham, who liked to drink a little too much at the time, hadn't finished the score when we were supposed to put it on. So Frank asked Peter Klatzo to help him arrange music, record it into something, and then Frank went and died. But I knew Peter Klatzo from then. So when I started writing ballets myself, I said to David, can't I use Peter as a composer for something? And he did write a short little thing, and David said, all right, let's use that. And then Peter Klatzo wanted to do some of the N.P. van Wyk Loo poems, Drie Diere, if you recall.
Drie Diere, yeah.
And we did that together, and it worked very well, but it was extremely difficult to listen to if you're not an avid musicologist. Then
Well, you did 4 pieces.
David didn't like it, let me tell you.
Oh, really?
David loved his waltzes. Then I got Peter Klatzo to do another ballet, also based on N.P. van Wyk Loo poem, Vier Gebieden van die Dwerland, I think it was called. I called it Vespers.
Vespers, yes.
Yeah, and when we played the music to David Poole, he sat and listened to it and he said, where's the waltz? For Peter Klatzo to write a waltz, I mean, it's quite something. But
and what style of dance did you do? Was it classical ballet or was it contemporary?
It was at that time, classical and contemporary were getting all mixed up, and I loved to experiment with movement and, go this way or that way. It didn't really matter, as long as it told the story of the music. I, just went whichever. I didn't try and turn my ballets into either classical or modern. It was a mix.
Which do you think is more popular with the South African public? Contemporary or classical?
Classical, without a doubt. Unfortunately, I think the audiences for ballet have dwindled. And I put it down to the fact that, can I be nasty? I think the standard of production has gone down horrifically. And a combination of factors. One of the big factors, of course, the money has dried up a lot. Not enough detail is put into the productions. you know, the young of today don't seem to be able to take criticism as we had to, or at least we just laid down and took it, rather, and they all stand up and say, don't talk to me like that, but I still talk to them like that. I don't know, it's a combination of factors, and it's sad, I think. We did have an extremely high standard of production, and the audiences would flock, literally flock, to come and see us.
In 1994, you took a company over to Sadler's Wells.
I did.
It was very brave of you, or?
Stupid. Bit of both, I think. Yes. And to a certain extent, you know, it was just when South Africa was opening up, and it was a mistake, and it was not a mistake. You know what I mean? It was.
Was it not well received?
Some of it was well received, and others was, you know, the London critics are something else. If you know, they are vicious. I mean, if you think they're vicious, you know, dear old Eve Borland from way back used to give us bad reviews occasionally. That was nothing like what the English critics could do to you, and they did.
Well, that scared you out of London, so you've never thought to go.
I have been back. I produced one of our ballets for Northern Ballet Theatre, which when I did it for them, it was very well received. So you can't tell. And the British hate being told how to do anything. And we took Hamlet there, and they didn't like that at all. Nobody tells them how to do Hamlet. I decided I was going to write Manon. Before David died, he asked Kenneth Macmillan if we could do his Manon. And the negotiations were still going on when I don't know what happened, but then David said to me, why don't you try and do a Manon? I did, and it worked quite well, but Manon is not a subject that the South African people are familiar with at all. They don't know who Manon was, the girl, or the story, or the opera, anything. Carmen and Camille and those kind of people, those kind of subjects, to a certain extent they're familiar with. And unfortunately, South African...
It's very beautiful music.
It's lovely music, absolutely gorgeous music. And the story is unbelievably sad, but really nasty, actually. This poor girl, what they used to put women through in France in those days was horrific. I mean, they think they got it bad now, you should have seen it.
Because Mimi Kutzer sang that, I remember.
I worked with Mimi Kutzer quite a lot.
Oh, did you?
Yes. You know, in Tales of Hoffmann, you have Olympia, the doll, and I had to choreograph, you know, the doll for her. And she kept saying to me, that's not what we did in Vienna. So I said, eventually I had to say, well, what did you do in Vienna? And then she did whatever she wanted to. So, but she was great fun to work with, actually.
She's a wonderful woman.
Very funny.
One of your works that I've seen, which was the best ballet I've ever seen, was Spartacus.
Oh, yes.
That was spectacular, with all boys, very powerful. How did that come about?
The Roman version, because I've done
the Roman
African
version.
Yeah.
We'll come to the other one.
No, the other one was fun. The Roman version happened because David wanted to do, I can't remember whether it was 50 years of the school, 50 years of the, no, it was 30 years of the company or something like that, and 50 years of the school. And he wanted to do a spectacular production that would combine the school and the company together, and you know, huge celebration because we were all so good. Then I suggested to him, why not Spartacus? And it was murder to put on. But at that time in the school, there were such a lot of really nice and good men as well. So I was very fortunate and I love working with men. I love choreographing with men. It's my favorite thing. And that we had about, I think at least 20 student men that could actually dance
It's just their strength
well.
that's
I don't know, it was
so
just
dramatic.
a wave, you know, and some very good teachers in the ballet world at the time, and they turned out these really nice. But David was running the school and the company at the time as well, so it sort of all happened beautifully together, and it worked well. I was very pleased with it at the time.
And do any of these ballets that you've done, do they ever come back?
Yes, often.
Would Spartacus come back again?
Well, I don't know about that one, because it was so male-orientated, and at the moment, this poor, sad Cape Town City Ballet have got 9 men. And then we had 30. So, you know, 30 in the company, 20 in the school. So, I mean, it was wonderful.
That's extraordinary. The new Spartacus in Africa, is an epic production with 100 people.
Lovely, running around the stage. But the whole thing was actually meant to develop people, to have the opportunity for people that wouldn't be able to dance to an orchestra at all. That was the whole thing that was behind it. It was not so much to try and put on a stunning big production, which it was a big production. I don't know about stunning, but anyway. You know, people who would normally not have the opportunity either to be on the stage or to be with the orchestra, and all of us that were involved in it had little people following us around, you know, to learn how to be choreographer or learn how to do lighting or learn how to do the design. And, you know, it was educational.
Did it achieve its purpose?
I think we did, actually, because a lot of people, the youngsters that worked with us at the time, have gone on to do quite well, even though it was only a few years ago. And that was put on by the trust that I'm part of, South African National Dance Trust, which is we're trying to develop and build interest in dance, which seems to have dwindled quite a bit, and to develop audience perception of what's good and what's not good, which is a whole nother story.
Do you know what, just something I want to know, because as you're talking about these 100 people on stage, I just want to know, are you a martinet on stage? I mean,
Total.
Conducting all those people and
Total.
telling them where
I'm
to
horrific.
stand.
I'm an absolute Hitler. I mean, you have to be, you know, if you're a director of any of the performing arts, you have to be a sort of mini Hitler to a certain extent. It's a benign dictatorship, isn't it? All directors are, whether it's opera or theatre or particularly ballet. You've got to be, you know exactly what you want, and you've got to do exactly what I tell you. Occasionally you get the extreme talent that can do, you know, whatever it likes, and it looks wonderful, but those are extremely rare creatures. I've only come across about 1 or 2 in my life, so.
Do you think Johannesburg, you've just recently, last year, worked in Johannesburg, is that showing any promise at all?
Yes, what they've managed to develop, but they've taken quite a few years to develop it. But they've also been quite clever and got sort of poor dancers from Brazil. Now in Brazil, they've got wonderful schools there, which apparently now are closing down because the government can't finance them anymore. But beautifully trained dancers of colour, of the ladies and gentlemen, and they will accept jobs in South Africa. We can't pay them very much over here because our rand dollar, you know, thing. But they don't mind, because if you come from Brazil, you get paid reasonable amounts in South. So that's when they've been very clever up there and imported those kind of dancers. But then on the other hand, they say up there, you know, we develop with these dancers, we train them up, and then they leave and go off and be principals in companies somewhere else, which is quite true. But that company is really developing extremely well under S. Sanassa and Ian MacDonald. Very good.
Do you see any young choreographers emerging?
I wish I had saw more. And I wish I could say that they are extremely talented. They've got here, Ian MacDonald tries up there. We've got quite a few very nice young black gentlemen well, he's not so young anymore, but Vincent Matsoe. But as soon as you show talent and you're black in this country, you get snatched by a company overseas. So we lose a lot of talent from South Africa, which is sad. But I suppose that's how it goes. We've got quite a few ladies who choreograph in South Africa now. Young, I'm talking about. But
Any good?
reasonable. Kirsty Eisenberg is really very nice, but you know, then they go and get married and have babies, and you know, and Lindy Reisenberg is also a very good choreographer, but they sort of fade. They get a bit disheartened, I think.
Well, I
It's
suppose there's
difficult.
no money, no audiences.
You see, that's where I was so lucky. I was so very fortunate. I had the money, or at least I was given the money.
Yeah. And Charles Johan Lingefelder, you worked with him. What did you do with him?
Oh, I love him to bits. He's such a wonderful...
What did you do with him?
Cleopatra. And then I also did the opening of the Cricket World Cup. Did you know about that one?
No?
And I got him to write the music for me. Cricket World Cup was the, you know, and they opened these things and they had big spectacular show. Well, we put on something for the Cricket World Cup in forget. And I asked Charles to write the music, and I did the underwater scene, and it was great fun. I loved it. You know, you had thousands of people to work with. Loved it. But he did. Peter Cazalet, Charles, and I created a ballet on Cleopatra. And for me, it was one of the most rewarding productions I've ever put on. We used to meet every Wednesday, I think, morning for about a year or two to talk about it, to fiddle with the ideas. But then, while I was writing the ballet, every Saturday, Peter Kaz and Charles would come in, see what I'd written, and say, no, that doesn't work. Yes, that works. It was the most wonderful experience ever. And it worked extremely well, Cleopatra, and we've never done it again.
And explain to me, you say they came in and said, that doesn't work. Do you show them with dancers?
Yes. I choreograph on the dancers, and he would write a bit of music on his machines. You know, you can get these lovely machines where that sounds like an orchestra, it isn't. It's a computer. And he would do a bit and then give it to me on those little cassette things. I'd write a bit, then we'd all talk about it the next time we all got together. It was a wonderful experience. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
It's a wonderful collaborative art.
Well, I think if you're going to do a ballet production from scratch, it's got to be a collaborative. It's a bit like making a film. You know, every bit counts, and every bit has got to be fantastic. And when it all is and it all melds together, then you produce something, you know, magical. But quite often it isn't. When the collaborators sort of, you know, get a bit, they don't see eye to eye, which has happened a lot of the time.
Peter Cazalet does costume design as well.
Costume and sets. And he was a dancer as well, you know that.
Yes, I do. He hurt his back. And did he do costumes for you ever?
All the time. I think almost all of the productions he did the set with, he also did the costumes. Very few. It was Peter doing the sets. I think Dickie Longhurst did costumes for quite a few. That worked well as well. So I'm so blessed and so fortunate.
An ambitious dancer today, where would they go for training?
There are still quite a few good teachers around. Unfortunately, the school that Dulcie started at UCT has been closed down for young children. But there are still good teachers that you can find who can train a good dancer. But they're becoming more and more rare. And I just, you know, it's one of my secret ambitions that I'll win the lotto and start a school, you know, with a lot of money so that we can attract all those teachers into one place and then find the talented dancers or any dancer who wants to really learn the basics. Because for me, if you train in the classical ballet, you can do any dance form. And it's a stepping stone for everywhere, for all dance forms. But youngsters these days don't think like that. But it's true. Even I can see the dancers that you see doing these crazy, funny dance, you know, what do they call them? Strictly Come Dancing and all that. You can see the dancers that are trained. And it makes a lot of difference. But anyway, I'm still working on trying to start a school before I go to the big ballet company in the sky.
Does the choreography change per dancer? So would a Swan Lake look quite different from one dancer to the next?
You can have the same dance or steps or series of steps, and you can have different dancers and they can come on and do exactly the same, and they can make it look completely different. It's quite remarkable. And each personality that, you know, comes with it, and their body that goes with it, and their musicality that goes with it. It's a wonderful art form in the fact that you can have so many, and that's why the classics still work, because you do the Swan Lakes, they all do the same choreography to a certain extent, you know. They might just change the shoulders a little bit or the head or something, but it's basically the same, but it looks totally different. It's incredible. That's why I love it so much. It's ever changing and ever developing, and, you know, like the world.
Do you know something fabulous about ballet as well is the lighting? I remember Paul Van Boekjen, did you ever work with him in Johannesburg?
Yes, yes.
Because he did the most extraordinary lighting for ballet.
Well, hopefully we're going to have it now for Cinderella. We've just been talking about lighting for different... Now these days, you know, with all the fancy things that you can do, I mean, wow, wonderful. Making, you know, visual projections come alive. Beautiful.
Do you think it's worth fighting for ballet today when there's such a small population who appreciates it?
You know, you'd be surprised. You give them a little taste and they become more and more involved. But I think if the production level was a bit more appealing to the young audience, and it can be, you know, the youngsters do come in for some of the productions that I've seen recently. If I was young, I would say, and they do. You know, they stay away in their droves. But if you can entice them, what's the word? Seduce them back, it can happen easily. And we've got some lovely black dancers here. But and again, and I repeat myself, if you're talented and you're black, you get snatched up by overseas companies faster than you can blink. And they can make a lot of money over there. But if we had a quality something that they could stay here and be part of, because I feel dancers, or any artist for that matter, they know deep down inside what is good and what is not. Yeah, all performing artists have a sense of that, and they can't put their finger on it sometimes as to why. And I'm in the happy position when I'm so old I can tell them why. So, but hopefully, you know, we can develop and get back a standard which seduces young people to stay and contribute here as well as go overseas. Go overseas, yes, but come back and give back.
Are there outreach programs going to
all over the place?
And do those people respond to it when they see it?
Yes, they do indeed, and some of them go on. But, you know, not all young people today also can bear the hard work that's got to go with it, and the discipline, because it's a vicious art form. I mean, you've got to be so disciplined and so dedicated. Watch your figure, and, you know, be there, do class every day, and bear the pain, because it can be very stressful, and your body takes a beating. So all that contributes to some people not continuing. But a lot of people don't mind and do and go on. I was one of them. So
Sure.
I think there's great hope. I always think there's hope.